Howdy, guys, and welcome to Cliff Notes, and welcome to night number 57 of the overnight feed recaps for Big Brother season 26. A good Saturday morning to y'all. All right, what an unusual 36 hours or so we have had in the Big Brother house. Thursday night, we lost Quinn after the eviction. The feeds go off, they stay off all night long. Feeds finally came back yesterday around 9 o'clock or so in the morning. We got them back, and we discover that everyone is outside. Yes, indeed. They've been relegated to the backyard, to Janky's World. Do you remember Ainsley had announced that her assistant was going to be taking over, and I didn't know if it was an acronym. I don't remember what she called it, junior assistant or something. Yeah. Didn't know if it was Janie or Janky. Well, it was very much Janky. We find everyone in the backyard. We'll talk about that in a second. But we also learn that we do indeed have a new HOH. The new HOH for this week is Leah. Yes, indeed. Leah is HOH. I was hoping she would get it just to see what kind of chaos she may or may not bring to the house. Maybe it's not going to be as much as I thought. We'll see, though. We're going to talk about that as well, because certainly we've had discussions about the nomination. So a lot to cover. Let's get into a little bit of the description of the backyard, and then we'll get into the feeds themselves. Now, let's talk about the HOH competition first before we even do that. The HOH competition involved holding a long stick that was pushing against something. In this case, it sounds like it was a fake marshmallow. It'd be a really hard, well, maybe, I don't know if it'd be easier or harder if it's a real marshmallow, but no. Holding a long skewer, long stick against a fake marshmallow. It was pushed up against a wall or something else, and a matter just sitting there holding it as long as you can. If you lose your pressure, then the thing falls and you're out of the competition. We've seen it before. I think it was season 19, Big Brother Over the Top, the online Big Brother. We had that one season. They had them there, so it's not a new competition, but it's not one that we have seen a lot of times. But that was a competition itself. Takes a lot of arm and shoulder strength. So with that being in mind, Cam should be positioned to win this, right? Well, he got there towards the end, but not quite to the very end. Because again, it was Leah who won this thing. Now, here's what's amazing. This competition lasted right around 10 hours, apparently, which is long. For only first two times they did this competition, those past seasons, they said it lasted like 2-3 hours. Earlier in the season and all that. This one may be a little bit more riding on the outcome. It lasted 10 hours. That is a long time to be sitting there holding a skewer against a wall. So yeah, it was, I'm looking forward to see the competition itself. But yeah, about 10 hours. I really want to know how long Chemo and T-Core lasted on a competition like this. Maybe not forever. We'll find out. I assume we'll find out. But in the end, it was Leah and Cam and Angela, and actually Rubina was up there as well. So we had those four up on the block, We had those four still in the competition. Rubina eventually dropped. So then once you get Leah and Cam and Angela, they worked out an agreement amongst the three of them that, hey, whoever wins this thing protects the other two. You're good. You're not going on the block. Everyone agrees to it. And then at that point, Cam is the next one to fall. I wonder, once this agreement is made, was Cam trying to win HOH? Did he throw this once he thought he was safe with Leah so that he has the ability to compete in the HOH next week? Or did he truly just not able to hold it any longer? I'm guessing, without actually seeing competition, he may have thrown it at that point, but I don't know that for certain. Cam fell, so then it was just Leah and Angela. At that point, then Angela fell or dropped or whatever, her marshmallow. Leah wins the thing. Props to Leah. Props to winning comp that I may not have picked her to necessarily win. She's doing what it takes. And I admire the game that she's just kind of turning it on here at the end. So so we had her win this competition. All right, now with that agreement being made, theoretically, Cam and Angela should be safe this week, right? You're starting to limit the number of people that you've got available to put up on the block. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the outdoor setting before we get into the feeds themselves. The backyard has been converted to a janky world. It looks like a country fair setting. We find out they're going to be the outside all week long. It's bringing up shades of Dire Fest, which was, 2 seasons ago? They all merged together, but I think season 26. Half of the cast was out in the backyard, and let's please hope that this veto competition we have, assuming it's today, is a little bit better than the HOH competition we had during the Dyer Fest. Y'all remember during Dyer Fest 2 seasons ago, the HOH comp for the guys outside, DJ Showtime won this thing. It involves stacking styrofoam containers on top of each other, if I recall. Talking about janky. That's as janky as you get. But hopefully the veto today is a little bit different than that one. But the backyard's been converted to a county fair type setting. There's carnival games, throwing rings over beer bottles, knocking over milk bottles, things like that. So games set up everywhere. The pool is filled with floating rubber ducks. There's stuffed animals all around the little game setup. There are also 8 cots for the house guests, 8 cots, 8 sleeping bags, because as I mentioned, they're spending all week outside the house. That's going to be pretty brutal. They'll be staying outside. They've got porta potties for the toilets, an outdoor shower to use. For food, they've got pizza, a little pizza oven apparently of some sort, ice cream, lots of candy, things like that. I think they've got a microwave, a little 1-burner stove. So a little bit living life a little rugged this week for the house guest outside. Especially, I checked, it's not 100-something degrees like it is down here in Texas, but it's still in the 80s over in LA. That artificial turf that they are on just captures that heat. It gets so hot, so brutal. I can only imagine how miserable it's going to be, especially after a few more days of this thing. So they better be prepared for it, because it's going to be a tough one. All right. Leah, even though she won HOH, she's out there with the rest of them. So no HOH room for Leah. She did get an HOH basket, which seemed to have just a bunch of toys and things to play with while she's out there to keep her occupied. She loved that. She got a letter from her mom. She got pictures, including a picture of her cat as well. So not the luxuries of being indoors, but she did get at least a basket. I think she got a robe as well. I saw her walking around in an HOH robe. As hot as it is out there, lots of sleeping from these house guests, especially trying to recover from an all-night endurance competition. So lots of sleeping throughout the day and napping from the house guests. Lots of hanging out in the pool area, trying to stay cool. Lots of people seeking out the shade wherever they could. It is going to be brutal doing that. All right, with that being said, let's go on to the feeds, the recaps that took place. They had kind of an early night, but that doesn't mean there weren't still conversations that took place. Leah certainly started her one-on-ones. And as you can imagine, when you're having a one-on-one with Leah, they aren't usually short little affairs. And it did seem like there was a little less give and take between Leah and the person she was talking to, and a little bit more conversations from Leah as opposed to people giving out information. But we did have one-on-ones. So we'll start with that. We'll start with a one-on-one between Leah and Cam. They're clarifying some of the past week and their involvement in Quinn and Angela's claim that Leah and Quinn were trying to work with the group of 3, Tikor, Rubina, and Chemo. So once again, they're kind of hashing through some of that. Leah saying, look, we were both on the outs with the Joseph vote, and we've both kind of been on the wrong side of some stuff. And so they're just trying to kind of hash some things out, a working conversation, so to speak. Again, Cam is already theoretically safe because of this safety agreement they made during the comp. And I don't think there's any reason that Leah would change that. So it's not so much Cam arguing why he should stay as them trying to figure out what Leah does going forward. Cam is telling Leah that if he had won HOH, his plan was to go after the 3, Tikor, Chemo, and Rubina. That he wasn't going after Angela. He wasn't going after Leah, so they don't have to worry about that. It was going after those 3. He is suggesting that Tikor, if she was to go up on the block against either Chemo or Rubina, she would survive the vote. And so if Leah was to put her up against either one of those, that she may make a little bit of an enemy with Tikor, and therefore, why even mess with it? Why maybe do it? Just put the other 2 on the block, Chemo, Rubina, since Tikor is going to be safe anyway. So just put Chemo and Rubina on the block, and that is Cam's suggestion. Now, keep in mind that Cam has suggested before that he and Tikor and Chelsea could be a final 3 to make it to the end. So I truly think Cam is trying to protect Tikor a little bit at this point by throwing out reasons why she shouldn't go on the block to begin with. And it seems like Leah is very receptive to what he is selling to her at this point. All right, we've got Leah now talking to Rubina. Rubina is talking about how hard the competition was, how badass it is that a woman won. Well, there are only 2 guys competing against 5 women, so the odds were in their favor. But she's saying, yeah, it's so badass that a woman won this thing, and it was so much tougher than the pressure cooker was. Leah saying, yeah, I could push a button forever. Holding this was a little bit tougher. It does sound like it was tougher. Leah saying that as much as she likes Rubina, she's saying, yeah, your trio is a real threat, Rubina. It is something I've got to be concerned with. And Rubina's saying, oh, yeah, maybe, but we're all in that group. We're all playing our individual games. Yeah, right. Yeah, sure you are, Rubina. But that's what she's telling Leah. She's also telling Rubina that, hey, being a fourth in a trio could have some advantages to it. I'm not sure what they are, and I never really could follow her line of reasoning on that. But she's trying to argue with Rubina. She's not trying to say the three of us aren't tight. You can't argue against that, right? She's just saying, hey, you could be the fourth in our group of three. Yeah, that's going to go over great. But she does mention that to Leah. Rubina is mentioning the All Girls Alliance again to Leah. She's saying, we talked about it, and I really wanted to finalize this Girls Alliance last week, but right when I was going to try to bring it up with you, that's why when you were in the pedal room, you were kind of just withdrawn. You weren't talking to anyone, so I never got the chance to. Gosh, sorry about that, but yeah, I really want this Girls Alliance. In other words, hey, why would you be going after me being another girl when there's still two guys on the block and all that? So she's trying to retroactively get this Girls Alliance going in hopes it may protect her a little bit. So she's suggesting that to Leah. Leah did not promise Rubina any type of safety, protection, that you're not going on the block, nothing like that at all. All right, we've got MJ, Mackenzie, and Leah talking. Mackenzie and Leah talking. Leah is telling Mackenzie that the renom option is T-Core. In other words, maybe that she won't go up, but if someone was to use a veto, that at that point T-Core could go up on the block. T-Core could be a backdoor, right? So not a chance to compete in veto. There's no BBAI arena. Could be a backdoor situation. We saw that with Quinn. We could see it with T-Core as well. The votes would have to really fall just right for that to happen. I don't think that's likely, but she's saying if I have to use as a renom, it very well could be T-Core. It looks like she's decided that, as Cam suggested, that Chemo and Rubina are going to go on the block as the initial nominees this week. She is trying to justify T-Core going on the block as a renom by saying, look, I was a renom option when T-Core was the HOH, so she shouldn't hold it against me if that's the case. We're way past trying to justify it too much. Just say, hey, it's better for my game, or hey, you're the only other person who hadn't been on the block yet. I don't know that you have to pussyfoot around at this point in time, but she's trying to throw out reasons why she would actually use T-Core as a renom if it comes down to that. All right, we've got MJ warning that T-Core and Chelsea are close to one another, that she sees them watching out for each other, and that's why even if T-Core was a renom, I just don't know that the votes are there to send her out over Rubina or Chemo at this point in time. But Mackenzie is aware of the relationship between T-Core and Chelsea. Now, Mackenzie also, I think, believes that she's got perhaps a final two with Chelsea. But even with that being said, she understands that those two are close. And so she's telling Leah about that. She is saying that she thinks that Chelsea probably wants a final two with T-Core. So I think she's just trying to set up T-Core as a target as best she can for Leah at this point. Leah's saying that, yeah, I think you're probably right about that closeness and all that. And she's saying that's why you leave T-Core alone at this point in time. Don't mess with her, because we won't have the support of other people on the other side like we would against Chemo or Rubina. So just don't mess with T-Core. She's saying we'll deal with T-Core as part of a double eviction. What is so magical about the double? Now, I get it. One argument is that if it's part of a double, you wouldn't have as much time for Chelsea to come in and try to convince you otherwise and all that. It's so quick that you could get T-Core out before you get a lot of opposition built. So that's theoretically why Leah wants to hold off on going after T-Core until the double. I think more than that, Leah's just operating out of a little bit of a fear. She understands that T-Core is kind of heading up that other group. She doesn't want to go after someone that maybe would survive a vote and then come after her. So Leah's trying to protect her own game by going after the more low-hanging fruit, I suppose you could say. All right, she's saying that they can figure out where T-Core's head is at this week if Rubina and Chemo are both on the block. they can use that as an opportunity to talk to T-Core and figure out what she's thinking about those. Who would she vote to save, not vote to save? From that, figure out a little bit more about her game and figure out a bunch of stuff. Leah saying that T-Core hasn't gone up yet. Just like herself, she hasn't gone up on the block yet. Again, so put her up. Put her up. And if nothing else, Leah, you then know that for Big Brother Season 26, you were the last person that was put on the block. By not doing that to T-Core this week, not being able to play an HOH next week, you may not get that record, Leah. But she's saying, yeah, she hadn't been up yet. So it's tough. It's tough to do it. All right. We've got T-Core and Leah now talking a little bit. Not a lot of substance in this conversation. T-Core complimenting Leah that she so deserves this and she's so happy for her and she got her pictures and all that stuff. Leah talking about how incredible T-Core is, what a great social game it is, and T-Core saying, I don't know why I'm still here and doing so well. And Leah saying, oh, it's because you've got such a great social game. And she says it's because you're gorgeous. And in this world, when you're gorgeous, that helps people side with you. And T-Core saying, oh, well, maybe, I guess. Thank you. And it's just a lot of blowing smoke from both of them at this point in time. And a whole lot of and I'll let y'all decide which of those two was saying a whole lot of You watch Big Brother, right? Yeah, so not a whole lot at this point in time between those two conversation-wise. All right, we do have Rabina and Mackenzie talking. So a little break from Leah, a little Rabina and Mackenzie talking. Rabina is telling Mackenzie that she's pretty sure she and Chemo are going up. She sees the writing on the wall. She understands the way this is happening. She's expecting it. Mackenzie, and the reason I bring this conversation up, Mackenzie's trying to cover her bases a little bit by when Rabina says, yeah, the two of us are going up, and Mackenzie saying, yeah, maybe. She said, but people trying to make big moves in this game and all that, and that she said, Chelsea could use the game against me. We're okay personal wise, but I'm not certain I'm 100% safe. She could be trying to make a big move. She could do a game move against me as well. So yeah, you think you're going on the block, but I'm not that close to Chelsea that I'm not a little afraid as well that I could make it on the block. Again, I think she's just doing a little posturing to Rabina, trying to distance herself from Chelsea and Cam a little bit. So just in case one of the three gets power next week, Mackenzie maybe doesn't think she would be as much of a target. I think that's where that conversation was heading and the intent. All right, the house guests throughout the day, a few times they had to go stand. There's a giant checkerboard, chessboard type thing, and they had to go stand on that. Speaking of, I don't remember seeing chessboard pieces or checkers, either one. So maybe it is just a dance floor, but they had to recycling some old Big Brother props from the back storage area, perhaps. But they had to all gather and dance a few times throughout the day for a few minutes at a time. Not really sure. I don't know if that's a punishment or it's just for content or just to make sure they're still all alive as much as they're laying around and napping. I'm not sure, but they had to do that a few times. A little dancing taking place throughout the day. All right, we've got Mackenzie and Leah talking. They're talking about recognizing everything in the backyard. They're saying that there's like 6 big tables and 1 little table. They notice all the ducks in the swimming pool. Over here, you can see that. All the ducks in the swimming pool, primarily little ducks, but maybe a big duck out there as well. They're wondering if maybe the veto that we're going to have, assuming it's today, I think it's today, we haven't heard otherwise, but that the veto to be held today could be the counting competition. Y'all remember that one, right? Where you see a little container of ducks or whatever, and now you have to predict how many ducks there are in a bigger container or a little container. It's some kind of type of counting type competition. I tell you what, if I'm in that backyard, nothing to do, I'm counting everything. I'm learning how to excel in each and every one of those carnival games, knocking over milk bottles, throwing rings on bottles. I do think it's going to be some kind of counting competition. I think they're on the right track here, so they ought to be studying. We saw Chelsea studying and counting the beer bottles. Well, she said they were actually wine bottles, but saw her counting bottles and all that. So I do think people are paying attention to this. All right, we've got Chelsea and Leah talking a little bit. Leah's complaining that being in power is not fun. Well, it sure beats not being in power, Leah. People would always say that during my season. All I can say was, coming from someone who's been on the block a few times, anytime you get tired of being in power, just let me know. I'll be happy to switch with you. I'll be happy to take over your duties. Yeah, I didn't have a lot of tolerance for the people at the top complaining about what a rough life it was to be at the top. Heavy as a head that wears a crown. Yeah, it still beats being a peasant, right? But Leah's complaining about not being about being in power, just not being fun. Chelsea is saying that she thinks next week is going to be the double eviction. We hear that every single week. Next week will be the double. So she's thinking next week is going to be the double and wanting to be prepared for that. All right, we finally had the feeds cut around 7:45 or so, Big Brother time. Feeds came back about 9:30 or so. No indication that the nominations took place. They may have. I mean, we heard people later in the evening talking as though Rubina and Chemo are on the block. I never heard in my conversation someone specifically saying, we had the nomination ceremony, y'all are on the block. I never heard it. And when we saw the feeds come back, they weren't talking about the nomination ceremony, just more talk about the HOH competition that took place overnight. In fact, I was really questioning whether they were just repeating some of the earlier feeds, but I don't think that was the case. Y'all tell me in the comments if they've had the nomination ceremony, if it took place during that period of time and I just missed it, let me know, because I did not hear that they actually had the nomination ceremony. But the feeds did come back around 9:30 or so, Big Brother time, and we had some more one-on-ones and just general conversations taking place. Really, the main conversation after that was lots of that. It's tough. House guests sitting around chatting, but because you're all in a single yard, it's tough to have any conversations where you feel you've got a lot of privacy, especially while people are up and about. The food section is back where the hammock used to be. The cots are up in the other corner. So you tend to have people just everywhere. And then the pool's in another corner. So it's tough to give any privacy. So we didn't have as many conversations taking place. So during the early evening, into the late evening, just not a lot of game talk taking place. But we did have, as expected, Ticor and Rubina staying up rather late talking. They spent forever grabbing some yellow benches, moving them all around, back and forth around the pool area, back by the food area, trying to find somewhere as far away as possible from the rest of the house guests, who for the most part were up in the cot area, up in the front by where the patio furniture used to be. They finally get settled down. I think Leah was up in all of diary room sessions are taking place in this little upstairs diary room since the house is off limits. So she's in there. The rest of the house guests are asleep. Finally, we get Rubina and Ticor talking to one another, hashing out everything that's going on. Ticor is saying that it really sucks that people want to keep putting Rubina on the block. It's just the way it could be worse. It could be you, Ticor. But she's saying it really sucks that people just keep doing that to Rubina. Rubina's saying, well, maybe, but there are not a lot of us in here. And it kind of makes sense. She's handling being on the block so much better than Ticor's handling Rubina being on the block. I think Ticor seeing her two tightest allies both up there just makes her realize that, yeah, she's got connections with Chelsea and all that, but that her group is certainly threatened at this point in time in this week. So Rubina handling it more, saying, yeah, it makes handling it better, saying, yeah, it makes sense. It does suck, but it does make sense. Ticor just does not seem to be handling the outdoors that well, as she then turns into a really going off on Angela at this point in time. I think she's just upset that Angela is not going on the block this week, that she has safety, that yet another week Angela is going to survive. So she's really going off on Angela. She's saying that she's annoyed with Angela. She's saying that some people just aren't worth your breath to even bother talking to. She's saying that she isn't going to be rude to Angela, but she isn't going to laugh at Angela's jokes when they aren't funny. She isn't going to listen to her long stories when they are boring. She's talking about the fact that it's weird seeing a grown woman being so childish. She says something about when Angela cackles and laughs that it's like a 15-year-old, and she's just tired of Angela. She's had enough of it. Well, Ticor, go ahead and damage your game with Angela. Ignore her. Don't laugh at the stuff. Don't listen to the stories. Do all of that. And let's see what happens if Angela then becomes HOH the following week, if your tone changes or not. I get what she's saying. Sometimes, especially when you're in a situation where you're just tired and hot and angry and hungry and everything else, it's easy just to go off on other people. That's where in the game of Big Brother, you've got to be extra careful that you don't do just that you go out of your way to still be nice and friendly and working on the relationships with other people, because that's where you can jeopardize your game. And T-Core, if she truly is going to do all this to Angela, she could be jeopardizing her game. But yeah, T-Core just not happy that she's in the backyard, and not happy that two of her group are on the block potentially, and that Angela is not. That Angela is possibly going to outlast her little group of three. All right, we've got T-Core talking just about the fact that Chemo and Rubina are going to be or are on the block. She's saying, y'all are on the block, not me, but people don't understand that y'all going on a block affects me. Absolutely. She says that Leah should have put Cam and Chelsea on the block. How dare she put up the two of y'all? She should put up Cam and Chelsea. She's saying putting y'all two up affects me, not just in a game sense, but from a personal sense. She's saying they are making me choose between the two of you. Surely they realize that they're putting me in a difficult position, because now I've got to pick between the two of y'all. And how dare they do that? She says she does not appreciate them putting her into that position. Yeah, life is hard, isn't it, T-Core? Coming from a person who's not been on the block a single time. But yeah, she does not appreciate that they've put her in a difficult position in the game of Big Brother. She's saying how stupid it is that people aren't considering that when they make their decisions. How dare they not take into consideration that T-Core could be in a difficult position? Yeah, I say all the time, I'm going to keep everything on the positive. I'm going to keep it here as well. But, I think T-Core's position in the game is doing pretty well. But she certainly is very upset. Now, some of this may be spin a little bit towards Rubina and trying to make sure that Rubina understands that T-Core is properly offended that Rubina's on the block. So there could be some gameplay going on as well. But T-Core just not feeling these nominations this week. She's complaining that Leah was saying that both of them are complaining that Leah during the competition was saying that she could go all night long in this HOH competition. This is easy. I had no problem at all with that. They're not happy. They're considering that a bit braggadocious. Well, during a competition, there's something to be said for convincing everyone else that, hey, this is a piece of cake. You can stay up here as long as you want, but you aren't beating me. There's a psychological strategy in doing that. We see it in Big Brother. We certainly see it in Survivor season after season. But they're not happy that Leah seemed too comfortable during the HOH competition. T-Core is saying that people bragging about how long they made it in the competition, it's just not sensitive to other people's feelings. So, yeah, lots of sensitivity to feelings, other people's feelings, or just T-Core's feelings. I think it's a little bit more of that. T-Core is complaining about people making things so I, and me. Okay, T-Core, except you pretty much spent the last 30 minutes with an I, me situation, even when the other people in your group are the ones on the block. But she's saying that she's complaining about people who do that. She says, Cam and Chelsea don't do that. I don't do that. Well, Rubina, you don't do that. So she's complaining about people that make everything about themselves. Rubina's saying that being a person of color makes you more aware that the world isn't centered around you. Leave it to Rubina to bring race into every conversation she can. She does mention this to T-Core at that point. And we'll kind of end it right there. Everyone in bed by 12:30 or so. Again, a fairly early evening for these house guests, given that they stayed up the night before, that they're hot, they're miserable. Take advantage while you can. So everyone in bed by 12:30 or so. Now, me, being who I am, I've stayed up and watched the feeds for quite a bit longer, thinking that maybe you would have some of these house guests pop up in the middle of the night for a late night conversation up on the balcony, not being certain that the nomination ceremony had been held or not, thinking maybe they'd wake them up in the middle of the night for that, being janky and all that. And none of it happened. So there you have it. All the house guests in bed. I believe that this morning we should have the house guests up bright and early. So they're going to have, I assume, a nomination ceremony. If it hadn't already happened, and maybe it has, I just don't have positive confirmation. But if not, nomination ceremony, Chemo and Rubina going on the block, whether it's happened yet or not. And then we'll have the veto draw. We'll have the veto competition. I do think it'll be counting based on who wins that. We'll see. If it's Rubina or Chemo, obviously they pull themselves off the block. T-Core could be seeing the block for the first time this week. We'll know more by sometime this afternoon, I assume. But given the weird situation we have in the house right now, who knows? But here's what we do know. I will be back tomorrow morning. I'll give you updates on what may or may not have happened, repercussions going forward. So we'll talk all about it tomorrow morning. Until then, SKD 143. Cheers, my friends. Giga Maggies. Lots of college football going on today and the live feeds as well. So y'all have a great Saturday. I will see y'all tomorrow morning. Until then, again, SKD 143. Cheers, my friends. Bye.